So, I've got some bad news, everyone. Ultima Gaming Live is not happening this week for obvious reasons. My co-host Jesse has up and vanished, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Unless I have a co-host, I can't really do the show, so I guess... What is that? What? Hey, Thomas?
I'm ready.
You ready to do some game reviews?
Yeah.
Alright, sweet!
I love all of them, including you.
You love me?
Yes.
That is so sweet.
February, the month of love.
Oh yeah, it is. Thank you for reminding me that I'm going to be crying myself to sleep next Sunday. No, now it's just getting weird. Welcome to Ultima Gaming Live Season 2, Episode 2. We've got some brand new games to review this week. Thomas, tell them what we got.
First up, we have Mario & Luigi Paper Jam for the Nintendo 3DS.
I love the Mario & Luigi series.
Secondly, we have Final Fantasy Explorers, also for the Nintendo 3DS.
Yeah.
Lastly, Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth for the PlayStation 4 and the Vita.
You said Digimon?
Digimon.
That's a thing still?
Absolutely.
I'm okay with that. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into our first review for Mario & Luigi Paper Jam for the Nintendo 3DS.
Coming at you.
When it comes to the RPG genre, Mario is no stranger. In fact, he starred in multiple RPG series, starting with Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario, and then the Mario & Luigi series. Alpha Dream, developers of Mario & Luigi, decided to merge two of these series together in Mario & Luigi Paper Jam for the Nintendo 3DS. The game is not an even merge, however. Notice how Mario & Luigi is the first thing you read in the title? That's because the game feels much more like a Mario & Luigi title than a Paper Mario one. It's simply adding Paper Mario elements to the Mario & Luigi universe. But by no means is this a bad thing. Having Paper Mario inside the Mario & Luigi universe is just enough of a twist to add fun new elements to a familiar series, without ruining that tried and true formula. Paper Jam includes everything a Mario RPG lover has come to know. Good humor, a bright, vivid atmosphere, and a story that's simply more than just help the princess. And yet, even with all these nice additions, Paper Jam isn't the perfect sequel. In fact, it feels very repetitive rather early on. There were many times I was stuck chasing down paper toads in minigames that I didn't feel like playing, or doing papercraft battles as opposed to the classic turn-based combat. Other times it felt like the battles were simply too easy. Oddly enough, the game can switch into an easy mode if the player is struggling, but as a veteran Mario & Luigi player, I never felt the need to use it. The story for Mario & Luigi Paper Jam starts out as you would expect. Luigi and Toad find a book. Upon opening it, the entire Paper Mario universe comes flying out and they enter the Mario & Luigi universe. With both Bowsers deciding to team up, they kidnap both princesses and fly off. Mario and Luigi have to work then with Paper Mario in order to save the day. This is where the character of Paper Jam really shines. Nintendo did an excellent job of reminding everyone that certain characters were walking, talking pieces of paper. Toads will hide on walls or between cracks. Enemies will crumple up as you stomp on them. And Paper Mario can simply turn sideways and access hard-to-reach areas that normal, three-dimensional people can't fit. The combat for Paper Jam is your standard Mario & Luigi turn-based action. Choose an attack, and time your button presses to do additional damage. Adding Paper Mario on as a third character doesn't change up too much. He still has the same fundamentals for attacking. What makes Paper Mario different is the fact that he alone is weak compared to the Mario and Luigi of the other universe, as he's made out of paper. He makes up for this by having a copy ability. where he can multiply himself up to 6 times. Doing this will increase his strength, and his copies will take damage instead of him directly. Trio attacks are also new to combat, since this is the first Mario & Luigi title to have players control 3 characters simultaneously. These are still pretty similar to the Bros attacks, but can only be activated by Paper Mario. There are also battle cards which can grant items or various effects, as well as amiibo functionality, but you'll be just fine without ever using them. The newest addition to gameplay is the Papercraft Battles, fights where you control a giant Papercraft Mario who must take on other giant Papercraft enemies. You charge at the enemy to knock them over, and then kick them, causing damage. The winner is the last man standing. While these were humorous and fun at first, over time it simply felt like another gimmick or minigame. Overall, Paper Jam is a fine addition to the Mario & Luigi series, even if it does fall flat in certain areas. While I felt the Papercraft battles and chasing down of Toads were a waste of time, and that the game felt easy on its own, and still having an easy mode, Paper Jam is just as enjoyable as any other Mario & Luigi title. Now if only Nintendo would get to work on a true sequel to Thousand Year Door. Mario & Luigi Paper Jam gets a 4 out of 5.
So that was our review for Mario & Luigi Paper Jam for the Nintendo 3DS. It's a good game and an excellent installment to the Mario & Luigi franchise, which I've always been a huge fan of. You should definitely check that game out. Thomas said what our next game was, but I don't quite remember what it was, and I don't know where he went either.
Hey, Hunter.
What?
Hunter, behind you. Hey.
What? Thomas, what are you doing back there?
I'm exploring.
What do you mean you're exploring?
I'm exploring.
Exploring what?
Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy what?
Final Fantasy Explorers.
Final Fantasy Explorers?
For 3DS.
Right! Final Fantasy Explorers for the 3DS! That's our next review, and here it is.
Despite the name Final Fantasy Explorers will remind you of anything but. This action RPG for the Nintendo 3DS has more of a Monster Hunter feel than a traditional Final Fantasy game. That's because in Explorers, you aren't faced with turn-based combat, but rather an action RPG where you fight bosses over and over for loot as you hunt for rare gear and equipment. But while it might remind you of Monster Hunter, don't be fooled. This isn't just a clone or a ripoff. Being a Final Fantasy title, it has some unique elements and the game seems much more accessible than other games of this type. Perhaps the first thing I noticed about this game was the lack of plot. Final Fantasy has always been a series known for its storytelling, but Explorers doesn't do much of that. But the reality is that's okay. You don't look for plot in this type of game. All you need to know is that the game takes place on an island overrun with monsters. You assume the role of a traveler in the small town Libertas, a nice small port. You are tasked with going out and exploring, and it's your job to help clean up the mess of monsters that await you. One of the most important things in this game is preparing for the quest ahead. Your character can switch between classes at any time between missions, and with so many classes to choose from, it can be a little overwhelming. Rather than just go to a shop and purchase armor and weapons, you'll have to go hunt and grind for the materials needed, to then have someone in town craft it for you. Depending on what you're looking for, it can be simple, or it can be something that takes hours and multiple playthroughs of a quest or boss. However, don't let that scare you. This is something very common in the types of games that Explorers is borrowing from, and even then I felt it goes a little smoother in this game compared to others. But of course that doesn't mean the game isn't repetitive. That's the entire point. Grinding over and over until you get that right item or material you need to get the next big thing, going through the same zones over and over. This game is not for those of you who dislike repetition. In addition to gear, you also have a massive list of skills you can learn to help keep gameplay interesting. Thankfully, many skills can be equipped throughout multiple classes, so you don't have to feel compelled to sticking with only one class. In fact, I would recommend you experiment with different classes just to change up the gameplay a bit. Skills also build up resonance, allowing players to do a crystal surge in which they gain a buff and can change up a certain skill to help in the heat of battle. Multiplayer is a huge focus for this game, and while it's a big strength, it can also be a big weakness. Missions are ranked with stars from 1 to 10, with 1 being the easiest. By the time you reach the 5 or 6 star level, the game almost forces you to play with other people if you hope to survive. This was my biggest issue with the game. If you don't have anyone else who owns the game, you're stuck on your own. Sure, you can manage, but the game is much more enjoyable when played with friends. If you don't have any friends with the game, you get cheated on what is perhaps the biggest strength of the game, turning it into a huge weakness. Final Fantasy Explorers is certainly not your typical Final Fantasy game. It's fun, and it's a grind, but the rewards make it that much more enjoyable. It's certainly not a Monster Hunter killer, but for the first title like this from Final Fantasy, it's a very admirable attempt at a genre it's still new at. If you have a couple of friends to play with, the game is a blast, but if you're all alone, you'll end up struggling and could tire of the repetition very quickly. For that reason, Final Fantasy Explorers gets a 3 out of 5.
Alright, so that was our review for Final Fantasy Explorers. It's a good game. I mean, I like it. And, where'd Hunter go? Hunter?
Thomas!
Oh!
Thomas!
What are you doing?
Oh, guess what?
What?
I'm exploring now.
You explore?
Yeah!
Dude, it's got co-op.
You got co-op for Explorers?
Let's go!
Let's go explore together!
Let's go exploring!
Yeah!
Exploring!
Draw me like one of your French girls, Hunter.
How's that? Hi, I'm Hunter again, CEO and Chairman of Ultima Gaming Live. We would appreciate it so much if you took the time to either like, comment, or subscribe to our channel. It would mean so much to my team and I. If you would just do this small gesture, it would have the biggest impact. Oh God! Oh God! What's happening? Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Before we get into our next review for Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth, I have something very important to share with all our viewers, and that is a world premiere, never before seen Digimon, right here. This beautiful creature is 2 Pumpmon. That's it. That's all you're gonna get. But everyone gets DLC codes for it right now on PS Vita and PS4. It's so exciting, but you know what's even more exciting? Our review for Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Here it is!
Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth was a game that almost never came to the West. In fact, it was never meant to, but thanks to a petition, Bandai Namco took notice and decided to finally release this game. Who knew petitions actually worked? The game was part of the 15th anniversary of Digimon and revival of the franchise for fans that grew up with it. The game features the art of Suzuhito Yasuda. His most notable works include the light novel series Durava and the Devil Survivor games. The game follows the protagonist and his or her journey through the digital world and the real world as they must solve cyber crimes and fight hackers. The plot goes much deeper than that, but that is the gist of it for the first part of the game. The game is very reminiscent of the Shin Megami Tensei series more than a Pokemon series. You collect Digimon, battle other Digimon, and try to evolve them to become more powerful. Now while that sounds a lot like Pokemon, unlike Pokemon, you can and must de-evolve them so their stats can increase as they level up and also to increase their level cap. Some forms cannot be obtained unless certain stats are met, and in order to obtain those stats, you must downgrade and upgrade over and over again. That is the core mechanic of the game, and to some it might seem like a chore. However, due to the vast amount of Digimon there are, and the amount of experience that can be gained, it feels rather smooth. One major flaw with this game is the translation is subpar. This is a Bandai Namco game. The company is known to bring over the Chinese-English port instead of doing actual localization. Case in point, look at the first Sword Art game. Now this is not a bad port, mind you, but there are some minor translation errors such as run-on sentences for different choices, to typos in area names and Digimon names. The game also features no English voice acting. To some, that sounds like a blessing, but when it comes to long RPGs, it does help not having to read every single text of dialogue. The game is a long RPG, which brings back in the comparisons to the SMT franchise. Not only does it feature an artist from the series, but it seems to follow some themes that occur in the series, such as trust and betrayal, and a look at whether humanity should continue or not. Once again, without going too deep into the story, it does go to places that you would not see in a Pokemon game, or even an earlier Digimon game. Most of your time is going to be spent running around doing side quests, which are simple quick cases for a detective agency and the continued improvement of your Digimon. How you obtain Digimon is a little bit of a process. You can either evolve the Digimon and then de-evolve them and take them down a different evolution line, or in battle you can scan the Digimon. Every time you encounter the Digimon, the scan goes up, so you must encounter the Digimon multiple times in battle before you can then create the Digimon on your computer. This game might not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of JRPGs and or Digimon, it is a must-buy. Hopefully Bandai Namco will then bring in the next Digimon game, and maybe this truly will be the start of a new age for the franchise here in the West. Here at Ultima Gaming, we give Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth a 4 out of 5.
So that concludes our show. Thank you guys so much for watching another episode of Ultima Gaming Live. We were so glad to have you be a part of it. Thomas was supposed to be here to help with the conclusion bit. I don't know where he went. Again, he's always off doing something stupid.
I'm still exploring.
What do you mean you're still exploring? Get over here. We have a conclusion to do.
Okay.
No.